And just having a plan in place for that lead is going to make your life a lot easier, because you can then focus on the top, 3 to 5% of leads that are going to bring you today's money, right? Tomorrow's money is going to come from follow-up. And if you do this long enough, 6, 12 months, those leads that you thought were dead, as Jim was saying, are going to come back to life. And now all of a sudden you're going to have people to talk to every single month because of the work you did 6 months ago.
All right, guys, here we go now. It is time to unlock more doors to deals. We're real estate investors here. We're real estate agents here, and we all have one thing in common. We believe that we can. We can live the life of our purpose. We can create financial freedom. We can build a better life for those that we love, and we can live the life of our dreams. I don't care if you're trying to do your first deal or your 500th this year. You can get to the next level, and we're here to help. Hey there, welcome to the Doors to Deals podcast. I'm your host and founder, Jim Manning. Today's episode can be found on our website, doorstodeals.com/005. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. And today we have technology experts Josh Ayers and Kevin Carroll from REI Black Book. What I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you guys an example of training that we have in our online training vault that our Doors to Deals members get their hands on, get to access. I wanted to share with you so you can touch and feel and know exactly what our members have in the online vault. And the online vault has over 3 years of content just like this in it. So here's the deal on this one, guys. If I had only known what we're going to talk about today when I first started out, I think I probably would have closed twice as many deals in my first 3 years. A lack of a proper follow-up system is one of the single biggest mistakes that I see every new and intermediate investor make, and one of the single biggest areas of improvement that experienced investors can make. So whether you're just starting out or if you've been doing this a while, if you focus on this one thing, results can happen. We just recently have a deal that we're going to make over $40,000 on, and it was marked as dead in our system. And following up ended up bringing it back to life. So the key to this, guys, is that if you want to work smarter and not harder, you're going to need to have the right follow-up system in place. So also make sure that you stay tuned for the second half. They're going to actually be sharing their seller acquisition workflow map that breaks down into a step-by-step system on how you can maximize your follow-up and maximize the amount of deals that you close in any given month. So, all right, guys, no more talk from me. Here's the training. Here's the example of what we have in our online vault. All right, guys. We have Josh and Kevin here to kind of talk about some follow-up and follow-up systems. And before we get into that, I wanted to talk about two things really quick. So LaVincent Hooker, I wanted to give him a shout out. He's using the Deal Hub, and he just got a deal under. He's going to do a flip on it. And I just want to give him a shout out for using it, for kind of finding a deal. And what was interesting was this particular deal, a wholesaler sent the deal to us. And then I guess that deal fell apart, and then a different wholesaler ended up putting it into the Deal Hub. And then, it was at a price that he obviously could make work and everything like that. And so what's interesting on that is if you're the first wholesaler on it, that you had a deal that was under, and then the second guy ended up getting it under for about $20,000 less than what that person had it under, if my numbers are right, when I looked at the deal. And what happens with these homeowners is their motivation levels go up and down. At that point, finally, a couple months later, they were ready. They were motivated and they were ready to sell for quite a bit less. So when we, as investors, kind of get in the mindset of, oh, it's a dead deal. Well, maybe it's a dead deal today, but that doesn't mean life doesn't happen. That doesn't mean a couple months down the road that they wouldn't revisit another offer from you at a lower price. So had that initial wholesaler then circled back and done proper follow-up, he possibly could have gotten that deal and then been the one that ended up wholesaling it on the Deal Hub to LaVincent in our group, right? So we have been, over the last 7 days, This is why follow-up is so critically important. We've been going over our own personal dead leads within Three Doors Properties, and in 7 days, we have one property under contract, and we have a lead on 2 additional transactions that we have a really good shot at getting. So we picked up 3 additional leads that at one point was dead enough for us to put dead in the system. And then, now all of a sudden it comes back. And I need a better analogy for this, guys. The only thing I can think of is like if you go and watch a movie, like to draw an analogy on why this works, on why the motivation happens. If you go to watch a movie, you're locked in. You're probably not necessarily paying attention to where the bathroom is, right? You're locked in, but then you get that big soda and you're taking a drink and you're loving the movie, right? And then all of a sudden you're like 20 minutes in and you're like, oh my God, I should not have drank this soda. Oh my gosh, I have to pee. But I'm 20 minutes in, I might be able to make it to the rest of the movie. I'm really enjoying this part. It's not a good part to kind of take a pee break. So I'm going to stay. And then, so you're not motivated enough to kind of to get to that solution, right? But then 20 more minutes comes by, and then all of a sudden, at some point, the motivation level gets high enough that you have that need to then go get to the solution of the bathroom, right? And that's what works. That's how this thing happens in real estate. If you're doing follow-up properly, 80% of your deals, I don't care if you're an agent, I don't care if you're an investor, and really vendors as well, like 80% of your deals with proper follow-up systems should come after a month from your first initial contact, your first initial appointment. So I really wanted to lay the groundwork on how critically important this topic is. So when we talk about it, and so Josh and Kevin are from REI Blackbook, and REI Blackbook's a CRM that is outstanding for investors to use. And I asked them to come in, and they have the opportunity to kind of look and see kind of what some people are doing with follow-ups. I think we have a case study too that they're going to kind of go over on some on some of the actual things. So what we want to talk today about is, and we're going to kind of hammer on like the content of the X's and O's on what you can do with follow-up, and then just kind of dive deep into that as well. So let's get going on this. I don't know if I see Kevin back in here or not. Somebody's raising his hand. Let's see.
Hey, Jim, sorry. I'm going to plug my computer in real quick. I just realized I don't have my charger. Sorry about that. I'll be right back. Would be bad.
Yes, it would. Oh, okay. Here we go. So allowed to talk. I'm still trying to get used to this whole Zoom thing, even though we've been using it like nonstop for 6 months. You'd think at some point I'd have this whole thing down. Okay, so, all right, there he is. Okay.
Hello.
All right, so let's kind of get into the nitty gritty on follow up. So I kind of laid the groundwork on why I feel like it's so important. Do you guys have anything to add on that or anything like that? And then actually, and we need to kind of introduce you all to everybody as well. So why don't you kind of introduce yourself as well? And let's do that.
Yep. So my name is Josh Harris, the Director of Marketing at REI Blackbook. I've been with REI Blackbook and working with investors, helping them set their systems up for the last 6 years. So I have the fortunate opportunity to, as Jim said, to just kind of peek into a lot of different type of real estate investing businesses across the country. And whether it be wholesaling or people that are doing fix and flips or rentals, the biggest bottleneck that I always see is the ability to find good deals with enough meat on the bone, whether you're wholesaling it or you're keeping it for your rental portfolio, and being able to do that predictably month over month, right? So most investors are going out that I see without systems in place, and they're just kind of blasting out as much direct mail as they can. Even if it's a hyper-targeted list, you're only as good as your last hot lead if you're not following up, as Jim said. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how to build a predictable system for dumping all of your leads into, whether they be, great leads and they're ready to book an appointment right away, or they might tell you, now's not a good time, or they may use some choice words and tell you to go jump in a lake. And basically you need to have a proven process or a predictable process, a repeatable process for, each one of those scenarios, right? Some people are going to be ready to talk today. Some people might need a few months or, a couple years sometimes. And some people might just tell you to go jump in a lake. And if you could press a button to just say, okay, this lead is a green lead or a yellow lead, or however you categorize. Some people do ABC, and just having a plan in place for that lead is going to make your life a lot easier, because you can then focus on the top, 3 to 5% of leads that are going to bring you today's money, right? Tomorrow's money is going to come from follow-up. And if you do this long enough, 6-12 months, those leads that you thought were dead, as Jim was saying, are going to come back to life. And now all of a sudden you're going to have people to talk to every single month because of the work you did 6 months ago, right? And it's kind of like going to the gym. The first week at the gym is not very fun. You leave sore. You don't really see any results. But if you do it for 6 months, you feel great and you start to look great, right? And so it's not the sexiest thing to do on day one. But after a few months of doing it, and Jim's been doing this for I don't know how many years.
Yeah, like 13 years. And what he's talking about, guys, is really real. Like if you think about it, like let's say it takes you 2 months to generate that first kind of deal, right? And you're lead generating, you get that first deal, then there a peak and valley thing happens, right? And then you spend 3, 4, 5 months renovating the house, and you make a good amount of money and you're excited about it. And then you spend 2 more months lead generating, to get that next deal. So now there's this peak and valleys of this unsteady income. And the secret sauce of it is to then kind of always be following up and trying to get some lead generation going really consistently over and over and over again. So you don't have that kind of the ebbs and flows in your income. You're able to consistently and steadily do deals. Absolutely. So I cut you off and I go on tangents sometimes. I apologize.
No, perfect. No, that's awesome. So, Jim's been doing this for a long time. He's had a CRM in his business for a long time. So he's been capturing leads. And at the very least, whether he had follow-up in place or not, he at least had all of his leads somewhere where he could go search and say, hey, I want to find all my dead leads and I want to follow up with them, whether it be sending a text blast or manually having people call. There's a bunch of different ways to follow up, and it just depends on the type of business you're building, the size of your team, right? If you're a one-person show, then you're probably going to lean on some marketing tools and some automation. I know Jim's got dialers, so he might actually just be physically calling all of his dead leads. There's no right or wrong way of doing it necessarily. It just depends on the scale you're trying to get to. If you're just sitting there saying, I just want to build a nice lifestyle business, I want to close, 1 to 2 deals every single month. That would give me the money that I need to live the life that I want to live. I could travel, I can do, whatever I want to do. Then, there's a plan for that. If you want to scale up and you want to say, I want to close, 5 to 10 deals every single month, and I want to have a team in an office, there's a plan for that too, right? But no matter what your plan is, there is a framework that you can follow, and you can make adjustments along the way depending on the scale that you want to get to. And I'm sure this isn't the first type of training that you've attended. Sometimes you listen to people and they're, quote unquote, crushing it, and they're doing 10, 15 deals a month, and that's great, but maybe that's not for you. You have to, everything starts with, where you want to be, knowing how much revenue you need to generate to accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish. And then we work backwards from there. So today, I don't know if I'm going to be able to share. Can I share my screen at some point, Jim? So a little bit.
Try doing it now. Yeah.
Okay. Kevin, do you want to introduce yourself before I hijack this thing?
Yeah. And I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but frankly, I've been in sales for over 10 years, direct sales rep, managing sales teams. And the consistent theme, and it doesn't even necessarily apply to real estate, frankly. So any business you're in, you have leads, you have prospects, and you have to walk them through that journey. Well, every prospect's going to have a different timeline as to what's going on in their life, right? So they may respond and pick up the phone and call back from a direct mail piece or from whatever marketing that they are responding to, right? But that doesn't mean that there is a deal that's going to happen right now. It may be 6 months, 9 months. We've seen deals come back 2 years down the road. So in order to do that, especially as a small business owner, you have to have systems, you have to have processes in place, and you have to be consistent about it to avoid the ups and downs that Jim was just describing. So having that vision, the process defined, and basically the accountability as to who's doing what and what timing, it really grows that whole portfolio and allows that predictability, which every business owner wants, right? It's all about predictability. And again, so it's not about trying to get someone just because we need a paycheck this month. We need to operate our businesses based on when we're able to be in a position to help that particular homeowner, that property owner, et cetera, and not just when we want a paycheck. So there's a lot of pie to be eaten down the road, even if it's not available today. So put it in the oven, let it go, and eventually that fruit will come to bear. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this today, guys.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah. So Josh, let's get cranking on it, man.
Cool. All right. So we'll spend the next 45 minutes or so in this presentation, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. And Jim, please feel free to jump in and give your 2 cents wherever you feel necessary. So what I want to show you how to do is how to close 2 extra deals a month with less money, stress, frustration, and overwhelm. And so the reason I say that is because, the point Jim brought up before this is this is the exact point of this presentation, is he was able to go back to his dead leads, and he's now got 1 deal under contract and 2 pending, and that didn't cost him any extra money, right? He didn't have to go send more direct mail out. He didn't have to go buy another list. He didn't have to spend more money on pay-per-click because he already purchased that lead, right? He already spent the money to acquire that lead, and leads in this business are not cheap to come by, right? So I'm going to go through and show you a little case study how one of our users closed 2 to 3 deals a month with a simple follow-up campaign that allows her to focus more on the sellers that are ready to sell their house today and let the system kind of warm up the others, right? So what I want you to do right now is just grab a piece of paper or make a mental note on what an average deal is worth for you. So I don't know if we have investors across the country or if most folks are here local, Jim, but this is obviously going to vary, but just write down or take a mental note on what an average deal is worth to you, because what I'm going to share with you is going to take a little bit of work to get set up, but I think you'll find that it is well worth the work that it's going to take to do. All right, so I already introduced myself. Again, my name is Josh Harris, Director of Marketing at REI Black Book, and what we're going to talk about today is the proven process or the framework that we teach. So we teach these at our events. We teach these to all of our users. When you become a new user, this is a training that you will see fairly often. And it's something that we call the seller acquisition workflow map. Okay, so this is kind of what your processes should look like when you're acquiring leads and as they go through your sales process. So it ends up kind of looking like a funnel. So you have a bunch of leads up top, and then every stage of the process, it gets narrow and more narrow, right? And so I'm going to go through and we're going to talk about this in detail. But there's a couple things that I want you to understand before we jump into the nuts and bolts of this. And one of them is that growth does not always have to mean more. So it doesn't always mean you have to spend more on marketing. You don't always have to hire more people. You don't have to get more leads necessarily. You do have to supply your business with a healthy amount of leads every month. But if you want to go from closing 1 deal a quarter to 1 deal a month or 1 deal a week, you don't necessarily have to double, triple, quadruple your ad spend to keep up with your deal flow. You just need to be able to convert more of the leads you're already generating into deals. Okay, so I think we kind of we've talked about this a lot already, so I won't labor on that point. But I do want to tell you a little story about one of our users, and her name's Marcy Martinez. And if you've ever been to one of our events, you may have seen her speak at one of our events. She started investing in real estate in 2016. So she kind of got in, she went to one of those free seminars and didn't really know much about real estate, but she knew that she wanted to start investing in real estate. So she got her first property under contract in July of 2016. And she, but that deal kind of ended up falling apart right? And so she ended up closing her first deal in January of 2017, and she cashed her first check as a real estate investor. But she was kind of all over the place. She was sporadically closing deals. She didn't have a system in place. She didn't know where her next paycheck would come from in real estate. So she had a full-time job that she liked, but she wanted to leave because she wanted to be a full-time real estate investor, but she just couldn't. She couldn't close enough deals consistently for her to feel comfortable leaving her W-2 job because she had she had predictable revenue coming in. So what she did was she attended one of our trainings, or she watched one of our on-demand trainings that we have, similar to what we're talking about right now. And she decided to just sit down and focus one weekend of her time to just outlining her processes. She just took out a piece of paper. She used a whiteboard, but she basically just said, okay, I've been doing this for about a year now. And this is what's happening in my business. Leads come in. This is what happens, and she just outlined her processes step by step by step. And she identified some breaking points. And we're going to talk about what those breaking points were. And they're very common in everyone's business. Leads come in and you try to call them back. Maybe you miss a call because you're in a meeting or you're at work. You try to call them back. They don't answer. Try to call them back again. They don't answer. And then that lead kind of just gets, left by the wayside. So she sat down and she came up with the plan, whiteboarded it out, and just started getting in her REI Black Book account and building it out. And what ended up happening was she went from kind of sporadically closing deals, in not knowing where her next paycheck was going to be, to consistently closing 2 deals a month, which allowed her to quit her job. And she now has a steady flow of deals coming in. And so basically what she did to kind of bridge that gap was she put a couple very simple but very effective follow-up campaigns in place in her business. And if you remember that framework I showed you before, she followed a very similar framework to that. So we're going to get into the specifics and the tactics here pretty shortly. And so she continued to kind of refine her campaigns. She kind of, went back and took a look and said, okay, there's still leads falling out of my business here. There's leads falling out of my business here. And she was able to go back and refine that process even more. And she ended up going from closing 2 deals a month to closing 4 deals on average every single month. And now she's looking to build a team. So before, she didn't even want to build a team. You might be this way. You might say, there's no way that I want to, that I want people that are depending on me. I don't want to have meetings every day with my team. And she was in the same boat. But she found that once she had these systems in place, it was easy to plug a VA in to answer her calls, because now she had the predictable system in place where she could, if a lead came in and that lead was answered by one of her VAs, she could actually listen to like a call recording. Okay. And so we'll talk about Marcy here in a little bit, but the moral of this story is she, when she first got into the business, she was kind of running her business off of spreadsheets and notepads and just kind of trying to remember to call people back when she had time. She'd make reminders in her phone. And she went from that quote unquote system to really implementing what we're going to teach you over the next 40 minutes or so. And there's a couple keys to her success here. And one of them is that she stopped focusing on unqualified sellers. So there's really no amount of salesmanship that's going to convince an unmotivated seller to sell their house at a discount. That's very, very hard to do. If you're a super slick salesman, you might be able to do that, but you're not going to be able to do it you're not going to be able to do it repeatably, right? So she stopped focusing on talking to unqualified sellers. And what I mean by that is just people that aren't motivated enough to really warrant phone call after phone call after phone call. So what she would do is she would she wouldn't mark them dead, but she would just mark them as a cold lead, and then the system would follow up with them. She doesn't have to use any, cheesy sales tactics. And, if you're like me, like I'm not a hardcore salesman. I used to work at Enterprise Rent-A-Car straight out of college, and they taught us that you have to get 3 no's. Basically, like you'd ask, hey, do you want this, car insurance for your rental? And they'd say no. And then you have to find out another way to ask them the same question. They'd say no again. You have to find another way to ask the same question. They'd say no again. And usually the third time they said no, they were like yelling at you, like, dude, just let me rent my car. Leave me alone. And so I didn't do very well in that position. Because I just didn't, I didn't like talking to a bunch of people that were unqualified. The funny thing is I was living in Chicago at the time. I got moved to a branch in downtown Chicago, and I quickly became the number one sales rep in the entire region, not because I was so great at sales, but because I was talking to super qualified leads. And that's because I was in downtown Chicago. No one has a car in downtown Chicago. No one has car insurance if they don't have a car. So they would pretty much just check the box every time. I'd say, hey, what plan would you like? The full package or the partial insurance? And so my job got so much easier because I was talking to qualified leads. All right. So you want to be, as much as you can, you want to be talking to people who need what you're selling. And now in this business, real estate's a numbers game, like most sales and marketing businesses are. It doesn't mean that you should ignore people who tell you no. Right. So similar to the enterprise thing, there's a reason they teach get to 3 no's, because it does work at scale. You just don't have to physically call them and hear them tell you no. You can put them on some sort of an automated drip campaign and let your quote unquote automated sales team do the heavy lifting. So you're going to go from selling one-to-one, which is not very scalable. It's really tough to do, especially if you're not doing this full time or if you're, a one person operation. So we're going to show you how to go from selling one-to-one to selling one-to-many. Okay. And we're also going to talk about the tools you need to do this. And at the end of the presentation, I'll show you some of the specific tools that REI Black Book has that will help you do this. But there's other tools that you can grab off the shelf. If REI Black Book is something that you're interested in, we do, of course, have a special deal for all of Jim's students. So,
and if I can interject here, guys, regardless of REI Black Book or not, right? The follow-up and the content that we're going to talk about today and kind of go through is something that you really do need to be doing, because it's going to take this gal that he's talking about. It took her from 2 deals a month to 4 deals a month, right? Like this is a key part of your business. And I don't care what tool you use or anything, you need to find a way to be able to do this. If you're going to make, everybody has the income goals that they have, right?
Yeah.
And they have it set up to hit those income goals. This is a critical piece. Follow-up is a critical piece of an investor's business, of an agent's business. That it needs to happen. So you're going to have to find a way to make it happen. And if that's pen and paper, you somehow, some way can stay organized and make it with pen and paper and manually do it, great. If that's a tool like REI Black Book, fantastic. Absolutely. So, and they have some amazing stuff available if you're looking to really take it up a notch and kind of put follow-up on steroids. And anyway, so go ahead, John.
No, 100%. I mean, this is really system agnostic. So whether you use REI Black Book or you use something else, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could use any tool. So I'm going to be talking about the tools you need. And then we will later on at the very, very end talk about how REI Black Book makes it easy, but you could use any of these tools that I'm talking about. So I don't want you to think that you necessarily have to use REI Black Book to get this done. This is totally system agnostic. And you could do it manually if you're that organized, but if you're like me, you have your system would break down and you wouldn't have very much fun. So with that said, let's get back into it. So another thing that I want to bring up is that you most likely don't have a traffic problem. What I mean by that is you probably don't have the problem of not getting enough leads. You may think you do, but it's probably just because you're not doing marketing, right? So that's kind of the easy part. Yes, you do have to spend some money typically on marketing. There are other ways where you can, kind of pound the pavement, or you can work for referrals. But nonetheless, you typically don't have a traffic problem. And the reason I say that is you usually don't have to generate quite as many leads as you think to meet your income goals and your deal goals. Because you most likely have a follow-up problem. We already talked about this, but most investors without systems in place like this suffer from something we call the leaky bucket syndrome. And so what that is, pretty simple. Leads come in the top of your system. And this could be in the form of people calling your cell phone, people going to your website and opting in, meeting people at a RIA club, right? They come into your system, your company somehow, but then the far majority of them fall out the bottom because they're just not ready to do business right away. And so Jim had a perfect case study on this before we jumped into the presentation, talking about that wholesaler that missed out on a deal. That deal slipped through that first person's business because they didn't follow up properly, and it landed in the lap of another lucky investor that maybe just sent the mail at the right time, or they just, stumbled upon their ad online at the right time, or they saw their bandit sign at the right time, right? So timing is everything, and you can manufacture timing by just being there all the time. If they've already raised their hand and pressed the trigger.
I can interject, guys. I really need a better analogy than going to the bathroom. I get that that's what I use, but like at some point, a person needs to get up and sell their house. At some point, at some point they're motivated enough, and you need to be that person that has a solution when it's that time.
And 100%. And you'll see in this next slide, these are kind of just some generic sales numbers. Again, this is kind of industry agnostic, but on average, the elusive one call close doesn't happen very often. Where somebody calls you, they have to close on the deal like tomorrow. You make them, an offer for 50, 60 cents on the dollar, and they're so motivated that they're like, "Yep, let's do it." So that doesn't happen very often. About 2% of the time. 3% of sales that happen are going to occur after a second point of contact. So again, not very frequent. 4% are going to say yes after the third point of contact. And these don't have to be physical phone calls. These could be text messages, emails. They could see your ad online. It's just some sort of a touch point. 10% of people are going to say yes after the fourth touch. And then 81% of sales that occur are going to occur after the fifth point of contact. And this is pretty close to what Jim said earlier, that 80% of the sales that are going to close are going to happen after 30 days, right? It's going to take 30, 60, 90.
Yeah.
What's that?
If you're doing follow-up. Right?
Yeah, if you're following up, correct. And so now what ends up happening is most people don't follow up. So 44% of people give up after the first touch because they're just always looking for that hot lead. And so you could talk to 100 people and you'll close 3 deals, but that takes a lot of time and effort, right, to do that. And so if you're working a rehab or you're trying to get a wholesale deal to the finish line, you're probably not sitting there making 30, 40 dials a day. So 44% of people give up after the first touch, 22% of people give up after the second, 14 give up after the third, 12% give up after the fourth. That means that 92% of people give up on an eventual yes. Okay, so if we kind of combine these two numbers together, if you are following up with people more than 5 or 6 times, then you're part of this 8% of people that are fighting for 81% of the business just because they're following up. Okay, so because most people aren't following up, they're stuck trying to fight for all the hot leads that, kind of the bigger players in your marketplace are also going after, because, they're pumping $10, $15, $20,000 worth of marketing out into the marketplace, and they have the luxury of sitting back and only talking to people that are super motivated because they have such high lead flow, but that costs tens of thousands of dollars a month to get there. So these are just some
to kind of edify what Josh is saying right now, what that slide was one of the best, like 2 slides ago. That was completely accurate from having done this 13 plus years. 100% accurate. I mean, this is phenomenal advice, guys. Absolutely. I mean, this is spot on. And it actually, I don't care what widget you have. I mean, it applies to, it's just, this is a business thing. It applies to businesses across the board, and 110% I can verify that it's for investors and agents as well. There's no question about it. So anyway,
and these stats are just as relevant today as they were, 20, 30 years ago, before all these cool automation tools existed. So if you literally, before, if you wanted to scale, you usually had to hire a bunch of people to, the automation was just having a human sitting in your office making dials for you. Now you have the luxury of sending automated text messages and ringless voicemails to folks that you have, that are already in your system. And we'll get into the tactics here in a minute. These are just some testimonials of some people that are basically, that have had success with follow-up. So this one's really cool. This is actually Marcy right here. So this is a screenshot of people that are replying, that are saying, yes, I'm ready. And she's got a pretty cool thing that happens when somebody replies to her messages with ready. It's a keyword, and that will kick off just a very simple task for her to pick up the phone, call those people, and it notifies her that she's got a dead lead that is responded. So let's get into the framework and the tactics of this. And so we're going to jump back into the seller acquisition workflow map. And so I'll make sure that you guys get a copy of this. If you want it, I'll give you my slides to Jim, and he can distribute those if he wants. But you can also just take some notes if you'd like to diagram this out yourself. What's up?
I'm such a nerd. I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. We worked for a while with our graphic designer to build this out. So it's pretty fun to teach. So it all starts with generating leads, and it doesn't matter how you generate your leads. There are 1,000,001 other trainings that you could probably watch to learn how to generate leads. Direct mail, bandit signs, driving for dollars, Google ads, Facebook ads, SEO, doesn't matter. Leads are going to come into your business, and they're usually going to come in one of two ways. They're going to come in from a website submission or a phone call, or maybe a text message. Sometimes people text in as well. So it's either from a phone or a submission online. Okay. So where do you get these leads? So this is not a training about traffic, but I always like to say, where do you get traffic? You go to the traffic store. So just like if you want to get vegetables, where do you get vegetables? You go to the grocery store. There's plenty of places to go get traffic. You can buy lists from places like ListSource. You can go to places like Google and Facebook and give them money, and they'll put your ad in front of people that are interested. The easiest way to do it would be probably direct mail. Bandit signs is the most tried and true way. The fact of the matter is, people always ask, do Facebook ads really work? Do Google ads really work? Do bandit signs really work? Yeah, it all works, but you just have to understand that the way you acquire the leads is just a small part of of the bigger system, right? So the way that people come into your system, there's easier ways than others. There's less expensive ways than others. But you just have to get these leads into your business. And you also have to understand that there is, if you don't intentionally focus on this, there is going to be a breaking point between your sales efforts and your marketing efforts. And so whether you actually have a sales team and a marketing team, or it's just all you, the fact of the matter is, the job of marketing is to go out and kind of spread the gospel, spread the word, let people know what you're doing, raise awareness, bring people in. And the job of sales is to take those leads and convert them into appointments and deals. But there, in most operations, if you don't focus on this, there's going to be a breakdown between the marketing function of your business and the sales function of your business. And so there's a really cool article that was published in Forbes a while back. And it was this research company that went out and spent like 3 years, and they basically secret shopped over 10,000 businesses across a bunch of different industries. Real estate was one of them. And they found that on average, when they responded to a piece of advertising, whether it was online or offline, it took a sales rep 46 hours and 53 minutes to pick up the phone and respond to that lead. And the sales rep who did call only made 1.3 call attempts before giving up and moving on. And it says research is showing that it's getting better, but only slightly. So this kind of mirrors what we've been talking about, right? People just don't make enough call attempts, and it takes forever for somebody to actually get to that lead. So, you can do this anonymously, but raise your hand or be honest with yourself. How long does it take you to follow up with a lead when it comes into your system? Because time is of the essence, especially if somebody's like actually a really hot lead. You're not the only person that they're probably talking to in your market. This article goes on to show this graph, and it shows the likelihood of qualifying leads in 5-minute increments. So this is basically, if you contact the lead in the first 5 minutes, the likelihood of you qualifying that lead goes up 100 times, not 100%. 100 times. I realize that it's very difficult to contact every single lead as soon as that lead is captured. But if you can at least put some stopgaps in place, like an automated text message or an email that goes out. Text message is preferred just because people will get it right away. And you'll have a way better chance of qualifying that lead. And so what I mean by that is it's just getting them on the phone, and you'll have a better chance of booking an appointment. Okay. This is super important. This is one of the biggest breakpoints in most people's business that are doing marketing and sales, is it takes them too long to respond to leads. And you're losing tons and tons of money, tons of opportunity here because you're waiting, 24 hours to get back to a lead. Because if they're filling out a form on 3 different people's websites and one person calls them, in 5 or 10 minutes, and you call them 24 hours later, they might have already had an over the phone appointment. They might have even, if they're super motivated, that other investor might have even already gone to their house and met with them.
Yeah. So the study that I read was 400 times more likely to convert the person to a client if you responded or picked up the phone call within 5 minutes.
And if
400 times increase in conversion.
Yeah. And if you can, knowing that, you might not be able to say, okay, like I can't afford to have somebody just sitting there waiting by the phones to call somebody right now. It's just not realistic. But knowing this, it might make sense to at least build some sort of little stopgap in place that just sends them a very personal text message that just says, Hey, Jim, Josh here from STL Home Offers. I saw you just requested a cash offer on your property. Just wanted to let you know we're working on it, and we'll be in contact with you shortly. Now, you might also say, wow, I can't afford not to have somebody. Because if you're doing this at any sort of scale, maybe you're generating 100 leads a month, then you might say, I actually can't afford not to have somebody just waiting by the phones, ready to call somebody. So again, this all depends on what sort of scale you're trying to get to, what sort of business you're trying to build, what sort of lifestyle you're trying to support. But take this information and kind of do with it what you will, what makes sense, based on the type of business you're trying to build. The fact of the matter is you just need a proven process in place. And this, you can kind of think of a quote unquote proven process as like the plumbing that runs through your business. So, think about it. If you have, you have plumbing that runs through your house, and if there is a leak under the sink. Sorry, that's hard to say. If there is a leak under the sink, you're going to probably stop everything you're doing and fix that leak. Well, if there's a leak in your business, you need to treat it just like a leak in your plumbing in your house. You don't want a bunch of water flowing out of your house. You don't want a bunch of leads flowing out of your business. So you can kind of think of this as we go through and we talk about this framework here as kind of the plumbing that's going to run through your business. So, okay, so we talked about generating leads and the importance of following up with leads as soon as you can. Now, this is going to be the first break point in your business. Are you able to contact that lead or not? Okay, so let's just assume everything goes as well as it possibly can. This is one of those, amazing times where everything works out, the stars align, and you close a deal. So what ends up happening at a high level is you get a lead, whether they call you and you answer right away, or they come to your website, they fill out a form, you pick up the phone, call them, they answer. Great. We're moving down this green path. You get the information on the property, get a little bit of information on the seller, you analyze the deal, you make an offer, they accept, and you're able to close on the deal. You then turn around and you disposition that property any way you need to. If it's a rental, you get it ready to rent. If it's a wholesale deal, maybe you get it cleaned out a little bit, maybe you don't. And you distribute that to your cash buyer list, and you let them know that you got a new deal, whatever the case might be. Okay. So the reality is this is not how it works all the time. And we've talked about this a lot already. Right. So what I want to show you how to do is take all the people that kind of bleed off. I don't know if you can see my cursor. Take all the people that kind of bleed off and they go down these no paths, these red paths, and how to just build some contingency plans and some very simple follow-up campaigns so you can capture the value out of the marketing dollars that you're spending.
Hey there, just a reminder, check out doorstodeals.com/005 for a full video replay of this training. Additionally, we're going to have some workflows and screenshots of the charts that were in this training available for download as well on doorstodeals.com/005.
take all the people that kind of bleed off and they go down these no paths, these red paths, and how to just build some contingency plans and some very simple follow-up campaigns so you can capture the value out of the marketing dollars that you're spending. All right. So we're going to talk about just what a small boost in conversion can mean for your bottom line.
Hey, just really quick, if I can interject something.
Yes.
This same process is, even if you said, hey, my marketing budget is zero, you can apply this same principle, everything that he's discussing, for like a networking lead. How many times do you have lunch with someone on networking that could send you 2 or 3 wholesale deals a year, and then 18 months later you randomly run into the guy at a networking event or something like that? So it's the same process, and following up, even if it's just a referral on like the networking side of things, follow up is the key to where you're going to end up being the person that wholesaler thinks of when it comes into play. So this is, the follow-up happens whether there's a cost on the lead or not. Networking's paramount on it. So keep going, Josh.
Yep, 100%. So we're going to talk about what just a small boost in conversion can do for your business. So let's do a little bit of quick math here. So let's just say you get 100 leads a month or a quarter, depending on your marketing budget. Let's just say you're getting 100 leads into your business. You talk to 60 of those leads, and 1 out of 6 turn into an appointment. Not very good at math. I think that's probably 10. 10 leads turn into an appointment, and you're able to close 2 deals out of that. Okay. So, why is conversion so important? Or why are conversions so important? So that comes out to about a 2% conversion rate. So, 2 deals out of 100 leads, that's a 2% conversion rate. Get 100 leads, 10 appointments, 2 deals. And let's just say on average, remember I asked you at the very beginning of this to make a mental note or write on a piece of paper what your average revenue per deal is. And we'll just say that it's $8,000. So that's a total of $16,000. So if you were able to do this every single month or every single quarter, you're bringing in 16 grand. Now, if you can bump your conversion rate to 4%, now I realize that's doubling it, but the only reason we're able to do that is because of follow-up, of course. And this is very, very attainable. To go from a 2% conversion rate to a 4% conversion rate with what we're talking about here. That means out of those same 100 leads, you're now able to book 20 appointments and close 4 deals. Okay. And then what that will do to your bottom line is, of course, double it, right? And so now out of the same marketing spend, you're able to double the revenue, double your return on ad spend or return on investment, simply from following up, right? So, 2% to 4% means an increase of $16,000 to your bottom line without having to spend more money on marketing. And that really is that's the whole reason we're talking about this stuff, right? So let's take a look at how that works, how that plays out, and the type of system you would need to build to accomplish what we're talking about. So assuming leads are going to bleed out, and they're not, everything's not going to go as planned, which unfortunately is the majority of your leads. What we teach people to do is when you pick up the phone and call somebody and they don't answer, you need to be able to, there we go. You need to be able to trigger about a week to 2 week follow-up. So we just say 10-day follow-up campaign. And it's usually, it's a text message. It's a reminder to pick up the phone and give them a call. It's an email. It's a ringless voicemail, and you can automate all of this, or you can choose to do it yourself. I would highly suggest automating, these drip campaigns, just so you ensure that it happens every single time. And think about the mindset of somebody who's going to respond to one of your ads. So there's 1,000,001 other things they could do that day than knowingly pick up the phone and respond to an ad that a salesperson put in their mailbox, or an ad that they see on the internet, knowing good and well they're going to be talking to a salesperson. So there's some sort of motivation, maybe not enough, but there's some sort of motivation that warrants you following up with that person. And if they call you and you're not able to answer, if they fill out a form on your website, you call them back and they don't answer, it's probably not because they don't want to talk to you. It's probably just because they're busy. And I would argue that good follow-up done properly is not annoying or pestering. It's actually good customer service. And you'll find that people actually will thank you for following up and thank you for your professionalism, because they're just so busy, right? How many times have you guys heard, Jim, where you're just like, hey, sorry, life's been crazy. I meant to get back to you, last week or whatever. And life's just been crazy. And so, that is a real thing that happens all the time. If you're following up, people actually appreciate it. So now what ends up happening though is, after 10 days, some people just don't reply. Not everybody appreciates it. Not everybody, really needs to talk to you right then and there. A lot of people still they're not going to reply to text messages. They're not going to call you back, and that's fine. Again, if this is all you did, you would pick up leads, or you would pick up deals out of just this very simple 10-day campaign. Now, if you want to, if you want to do one better, right, and you want to actually close more deals, because a lot of these people still aren't going to reply to you, you can build a 12-week. We usually do like a 3 to 4 month follow-up campaign that just repeats itself. And this is a little bit more evergreen in nature, meaning it doesn't have any mention of like, hey, you reached out 2 days ago. We haven't been able to hear from you. It's usually just every 2 or 3 weeks or so, they'll get either a text message and or a ringless voicemail that just says, hey, this is Josh with STL Home Offers. A while back, you had requested a cash offer on your property, and we just haven't been able to get a hold of you. Just want to let you know we're still buying properties in your area, and if you're ever interested in getting an offer from us, we'd love to chat. Give us a call back whenever you have time. And that just drips out to them every 2 or 3 weeks, or 3 or 4 weeks, however you want to set it up. And it's just staying in front of them. And I promise you, there's almost nobody in your market that's going to be doing this. And so when that time comes, in Jim's analogy, when they have to pee, when that time comes and they're interested in selling, they're going to at least give you a shot. Maybe you don't present them with the best offer, but you're at least going to get an at bat. And in this business, if you get enough at bats, you're going to close deals, right? And so if all you did was put these 2 campaigns in place in your business and have a simple way of triggering them when somebody doesn't pick up the phone, then you're gonna be able to focus on the top 3 to 5% of leads that want to talk business today, and the rest will just kind of sit there in the background warming up until they're ready, and they'll reply to your text messages. You saw that screenshot from Marcy a while ago, that literally they replied ready. Right. And that just triggers a notification to her that she needs to pick up the phone. And now that person is in that 3 to 5% of people that are ready to talk business. That person would have called another investor that just randomly sent them a postcard because the time was right. Okay.
Do you have any examples of like the 10-day follow-up or 12-week follow-up that we can kind of look at?
Yeah, I don't have in this presentation, but if we've got time at the end, I can kind of, I think I've probably got some on my computer I could pull up. But they're
So we're about 10 till, okay. And I'd love to hang on for that.
I'll get through the rest of this.
If anybody wants to hang on with us, I have a little bit extra time that we can do that on, and we're going to record this, guys. If anybody has to hop off at 11, feel free to hit the recording on this as well. So so I'd love to see some of the exact the examples and stuff. That'd be great.
So we actually have exact templates, exactly the text messages, what to say, when to send them out, and they're pretty. Really the magic, if you will, is just in sending them out, right? You're really just sending pretty simple text messages, just saying, hey, it's Josh with STL Home Offers. A couple days ago, you requested an offer on your property. We haven't been able to get a hold of you. It's just the fact of the matter of sending them out. But yeah, I'll go through and show you some of those. Another breaking point in this system is people that tell you no, right? You get to the point where you present an offer and that person tells you no. Having a a plan in place when someone tells you no will also help you scoop up some more deals. So Darren Buttram is a local investor here in St. Louis. He actually lives in Cabo now, in Mexico, but he still invests in St. Louis. And he came up with this pretty clever follow-up campaign. And what he does when somebody tells him no, he puts them on a very simple campaign that just reminds him every 3 months, once a quarter, to research the property at the county assessor's website. If the property has not been sold, he resubmits them an offer. And he's got an email template all basically pre-filled out. So it's very simple. It's kind of a rubber stamp process. He can just replicate it. And he was able, a couple of years back was the last time I talked to him, but he was able to close an extra 37 deals in, I guess it was 2018, using this very simple campaign. He just, all he did was somebody told him no. 3 months later, every 3 months, he would research the property. If it hasn't been sold, then he would just resubmit an offer via email. And it would really just be like a letter of intent, essentially just trying to gauge interest. And if it was sold, then he could at least see who bought it and what they bought it for. So he knows, how far off he was, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. And so, all this being said is you're basically building an automated sales team here that is doing all of the kind of what like an inside sales rep would do in a traditional sales business that's just booking appointments. They're just doing outreach and trying to gauge interest. You're able to build that with just some simple follow-up plans, some simple follow-up processes in place. So again, the bulk of the money that you're going to generate, the bulk of the deals that you're going to close are going to come on the right side of this diagram. It's going to come from your follow-up campaigns. So let's talk real quick about the tools that you need to accomplish this. So number one, probably going to need a website. If you're doing any type of, really any type of marketing, you're going to want a website where somebody can at least go to learn a little bit about your business. And that website should have a clear call to action above the fold. It just means they shouldn't have to scroll down to give you their information. Okay. It would be ideal if when you captured a lead, that lead went straight to your CRM. So if you're using a couple tools off the shelf, hopefully your website is integrated with your CRM. So when you capture a new lead, it's going directly in as a contact and the proper people on your team are notified so they can follow up automatically. And as a bonus, if you can send them a text message or some form of communication letting them know you got the lead, you'll be following up, it's going to help increase your conversion rates. You're also going to want to have some call tracking phone numbers. Every marketing channel that you have should have its own phone number. And the reason for that is you want to know where your best leads are coming from. And when you close a deal, you want to be able to go back and look where that lead came from. So, a lot of investors at the end of each quarter, at the end of each year, they'll look at all of their deals that they closed and they'll look at the source where that lead came from. And that informs their forecasting for their marketing moving forward. So if they can see that we just invested, $5,000 a month on radio ads and we're doing direct mail, we're doing bandit signs, we got billboards. It would be ideal if you, at the end of each quarter, the end of each year, could go back and see like, hey, we ended up closing, 14 deals from our radio ads for $350,000 in profit, and we only spent $80,000 on radio ads. We need to keep doing radio ads, right? And so it really is as simple as just having a unique phone number on your different marketing channels. And ideally that phone number, when someone calls in, the system would be able to say, hey, this lead came from your radio ad, because that's the only place where you're marketing that phone number. Okay. And then of course you're going to need a CRM for managing your leads. Ideally one that's going to allow you to tag contacts and source contacts. And then, this is just a screenshot of the contact manager inside of REI Black Book, but most CRMs allow you to, assign tasks, take notes, tag contacts, source contacts, and things like that. Of course, you're going to need follow-up campaigns. If you could follow up via email, ringless voicemail, and text message, that's going to be ideal. Some people will reply to text message. Some people will reply to email. Some people are going to reply to, a phone call or a ringless voicemail, right? And then what I think is not talked about enough is the disposition side, because everyone's so focused on the acquisition side of the business because, of course, if you can't acquire properties, the disposition side really doesn't matter. But if you have a way of streamlining your dispo systems, then it's going to make your life a lot easier when you go to actually exit the deal. And it doesn't matter if you're doing wholesale deals or rentals or rent to owns, you should build some sort of a waiting list. In the wholesale world, it's obviously a cash buyer list. But if you're a landlord or you're a lease option person, you should build a waiting list of rental prospects or rent to own prospects. So when you get a new unit or a new property that's available, you just have to click publish, and then and you could send out text messages, emails, and everything to your list. And so now you're selling your deals a lot faster, and you're lowering your vacancy rate, or you're selling your wholesale deals faster, typically for a higher profit margin, because you've built up the demand, because there's already a list of people that are interested in what you're selling. Okay, so the bottom line here is, and then what we can open it up for questions. Assuming you agree that we need systems in place and that you need to do follow up, you have two options. You can go and there's tons of different tools that you could go subscribe to, and I'll actually go through a list of them that are not REI Black Book. You can go get a Carrot website. You can go use Podio for your CRM. You can use MailChimp for email. And then you have to kind of figure out how to make them all integrate. I went and did a bunch of research and kind of like tallied up all the prices for all of these different tools. And if you were to use them all, it comes out to $778 a month. Plus you have to make them all integrate together. You can do it yourself, or you can hire a consultant to do that. Or you could use a tool like REI Black Book that allows you to kind of manage all of these processes, manage your business under one roof. So all the tools are integrated together, and you can get started for $197 a month. Okay, so the setup's a lot easier. You don't have to worry about a bunch of integrations. If something breaks, because this happens all the time, we use a bunch of different tools to run REI Black Book because we're a software company. Right. So REI Black Book's built for real estate investors. And so, we've got a CRM, we've got email follow-up, we've got phone systems. And when something breaks down, like we're not, the leads from our websites aren't going to our CRM, we call the website company and they blame it on the CRM company. We call the CRM company and they point fingers back at the website company. And usually it's just a broken integration, right? And it causes a lot of frustration. So, we used to have a $997 license fee, but you don't have to pay that anymore. You can literally just get started for $197. So these are the software subscriptions that REI Black Book replaces. Again, you could use like Carrot for websites. You could use, ClickFunnels lead pages for your landing pages. I'll just go through these real quick, just so you can see. Again, I did a bunch of research, and these are the prices that you would pay for all these different tools. So like CallRail is a popular tool you could use for call tracking and analytics. But you could see, if you start to piece together 3 or 4 of these, that it's going to add up to over $197. And then the technical implementation is going to be way more frustrating. And you're also probably going to be spending more money anyways. So I know Jim was asking about follow-up campaigns. So I can certainly go through and show you guys some. But we do have a special bonus for all 3-door members. If you want to get signed up for REI Black Book, we're actually going to give you Marcy's campaigns. So we worked with Marcy, and she's got 52 weeks worth of campaigns. We usually sell these, but we're just going to bundle them in and we're going to give them to you. It basically comes in the form of like a big PDF. It's like a guide, and it includes all of the text messages and emails and ringless voicemail scripts. When she sends them out, it kind of shows you the cadence of everything. And so you basically just have to go in, follow that guide, and you can build out campaigns just like Marcy. It's it goes in, it's pretty in depth. And you can learn more about that if you go to reiblackbook.com/3doors. So you won't see anything, because this was actually like kind of a last minute bonus that we threw in. You won't see anything on that page about Marcy's bonus. But if you do sign up through this link, through Jim's link, we'll get notified and we'll make sure that we email you her guide.
Yeah, I mean, just so you guys know, we actually do the Podio and all the other piecemeal items. And it's been about, I think we spent over $50,000 developing it to do what REI Black Book does, and it actually does it better than what our systems have. So we're kind of kicking ourselves that we spent all this money developing the system out that we could have just plugged right in to REI Black Book. So
yeah, and once you choose a system, it's really hard to switch. Like if Jim was just going to rip Podio out of his business, it would probably be super, super difficult. So, if you're sitting here right now and you've got an existing system that's working for you and you just realize that you need to build some follow-up in, then I hope that you got some value out of this presentation. Because really, the reason we came on was to teach you about follow-up and teach you the importance of it. But if you don't have a system, check out REI Black Book. And, if you've got questions, feel free to hit me or Kevin up. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I mean, I can certainly sit on for as long as we have questions. I could answer them right now as well.
Well, let's do this. Can you pull up some examples of some of the stuff you've seen? Like some actual examples of follow-up, Josh?
Hey,
yeah, like some follow-up campaigns.
Yeah, and then while he's doing that, guys, if you guys have questions, feel free to chat them in. And we're going to be a little bit over on time here, guys. If you need to hop off, you need to hop off. I get that. But I'm good till about 11:15, 11:20 today. So I can, if you guys want to really powwow on this, we can be here So go ahead, Kevin.
I do have basically the master workflows, a 10-day sequence that shows the timing and what goes out 6 months. So I'm happy to share my screen and walk through that. Anybody on the call, I know Brian's been submitting some questions here. I'm trying to keep up with those. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw those in the Q&A link there. I'll continue to monitor those. But Josh, if you'd like, I can share my screen and go through the workflows here if you need me to, sir.
Yeah, go for it. Can you share your screen?
Yep. All right. Can you see everything okay?
Yep.
All right. And I'll have to, so this kind of goes along with what Josh was showing earlier on the seller acquisition workflow map, right? So up top here, so this is basically an inbound seller call. So what happens when the phone rings, right? So again, if they're responding from a direct mail piece or banded signs, whatever that case may be, a proper system, whether or not it's in REI Black Book or not, that inbound call comes in. Well, the next step is to identify, so tag that particular lead as such. What source did they respond to? And then send a notification out to you, somebody on your team, to take that next step. So does that call get forward? Again, is it answered or not answered? And we will walk you through exactly what to do here. So if you don't answer, for example, those are the most important ones to make sure that leaky bucket is plugged, right? So if we don't answer, well, we need to tag them that it's a lead that came in and we get an answer. Here's a task, because we do need to call that person back or contact them to make sure that they're not working with somebody else, right? And then call the seller back. Well, if we don't get a hold of them, here's where we trigger that 10-day follow-up workflow. Well, the same thing if they come through a website, right? So if they come and opt in through a website or respond from a Facebook ad or a Google ad, well, this is that process that we need to do. If we don't contact them, it's that same 10-day follow-up, because we're still trying to contact that particular lead back, regardless of what method they entered into our systems, right? So as we look at this 10-day follow-up, you'll see here, so after we initially try to contact them back, if we're unable to get them on the phone and learn more about how we're going to help them, well, the next day, well, let's go ahead and send a text reply. Well, the day after that, we recommend a text reply and a ringless voicemail. And we talked about whiteboarding this out, and the whole idea is we want to be as consistent as possible, because, again, life gets in the way, people are busy, and the whole idea is we don't want to spend more on marketing to get those more leads to work on. Well, let's just be really efficient with the leads that we are generating, that we do have coming into the business. So again, whether or not you use a system like REI Black Book or a different program, this is what we would recommend. So again, each day we're hitting them with various means of communication, texting, ringless voicemails, maybe creating notifications to pick up the phone and call that particular lead back. But this shows you pretty much step by step over that 10-day sequence. If at that end of the 10 days, we're still unable to make contact and take that next step with that particular lead, well, we still want to automate because there's still deals in that, right? 4 or 5 touch points down the road or 6 months down the road. So here's what we would look like on our 6-month workflow. So again, they may not be quite as motivated, but we could slow down the frequency of how often we're attempting to touch each one of those leads. So maybe we wait 2 or 3 weeks, we send them a text message, delay again, and just continue to walk them through that process over the next 6 months, because there are still deals in that pool. And again, after the 6 months is up, well, you can just set this to basically repeat and put them on an additional follow-up workflow. So no matter what, whether it's in that first 10 days or 2 weeks, they don't reply, we still have a system, a process in place to continue to try to contact that particular lead. And then we also want to take it one step further, like Josh mentioned earlier. So again, we make a lot of offers. Not all offers get accepted. I wish life was that easy, right? But there's still a lot of yeses that come out of those original no's. Again, things change, timing changes, life gets in the way again, and motivation levels can change even if it's after they've already refused our offer here. So as we go through this, again, maybe delay a couple months, assign a task, research that property again. Do we want to resubmit an offer even if it's unsolicited? Email, text, delay, trigger, and then again, you can continue to loop this thing through. We've heard plenty of stories from investors over the years where they're getting deals 1.5 years, 2 years after that initial point of contact, and that's possible through automation and having a consistent process. But these are just a couple of examples of, basically that 10-day initial follow-up. If we still don't contact them, what that 6 months is, and the idea is this may not be specifically what is going to work best for your operation and your business, but the strategy and vision behind it is the same, right? So we recommend whiteboarding this out. If you were on the other end of that, how would you like basically that sales process to work if you were the seller on the other side of this? And what would it take for you to reply and stay engaged in contact? But regardless, just being consistent with that is what the key is here. So hopefully this kind of sheds a little bit of light on that. And Marcy's workflow goes into much more detail with the scripts and the ringless voicemail. You can actually listen to the messages, the exact timing that she's used consistently to follow up for a full year with each one of those leads. But this should give you an idea of kind of how we're connecting all these dots together.
Yeah. And again, like that's just the framework for kind of when to send out follow-up. Don't overthink the actual, what do I say? Because a lot of people get caught up on that. A good rule of thumb here is like, what would you say if you were literally doing it manually? If you were going to call them, they didn't answer and you left a voicemail, aside from being able to call them by name, you can record a ringless voicemail and you can say what you would normally say. Like whenever I record ringless voicemails, I usually like get up and I walk around, like I normally would. So it doesn't sound super rehearsed or scripted, because you just want to get people to re-engage. The whole purpose of all of everything we're talking about is just to get them back in that green path. If you think back to the seller acquisition workflow map, you're not going to probably buy a house over text message, although it has happened. Doesn't happen very often. But the whole purpose is we just want people to raise their hand and say, yeah, I'd be interested in entertaining an offer. And then sales picks back up. And now you're trying to book an appointment, or you're trying to get on the phone with them and make an offer, over the phone or whatever the case might be. So, don't overthink the actual scripting. Although if you want help with the scripting and kind of just say, hey, I just want something that I know works. Marcy's, her follow-up is fantastic. I mean, it's what she uses in her business. It's the exact campaign that she used to go from kind of sporadically closing deals to closing 2 to 4 a month. And so, like I said, we usually sell that. We're just going to include it if you want to get started with REI Black Book. But if you've already got existing systems, don't overthink it. You can always improve. You can always iterate. But you need a baseline, right? You need some sort of, some sort of numbers that you can look at and say, okay, now that we have this follow-up campaign in place, although it might not be the best one, we got a couple more deals out of it. What can we do to make it even better? It's just taking small baby steps. I don't want you to look at that map and be like, wow, that's 3 campaigns I have to create. That's, 10 days of follow-up. Then that's like 3 months of follow-up. Just build it out piece by piece. And this time next month or this time next year, however long it takes you to actually build it out, you're going to have a better system than you have today. You're going to be able to close more deals. So I think this is this kind of a preview of the PDF that walks through all of her.
Yeah.
campaigns?
So I just wanted to kind of show you how detailed this is. So this is basically her 52-week follow-up, right? So you want to be able to segment your database, and these are cold leads and, whatever you want to call them, red leads, green leads, just keep it consistent. But the first step was a ringless voicemail. So again, you could click here. This will actually play the ringless voicemail so you can hear the exact script. And then, so this walks you through, delay 1 minute, sends a ringless voicemail. The next time it sends a text reply. And this shows you how, again, we talk about making it personal because the whole idea is just to get them to pick up the phone and reply. So she actually will purposely misspell interesting just because we all type and we misspell things. But this walks you through step by step with the exact scripts of what her text messages say, what the timing is to wait 2 days. It creates a task. So literally for the full 52 weeks, this is step by step, exact text that she sends out, what links she includes in the text messages from start to finish here to again, it doesn't matter what system you're using, just to have a process like this in place can really grow and scale a business, real estate or even outside of real estate. But,
do you all have anything in here, or does she on a task for actually physically picking up the phone and calling?
yes.
Yeah, usually people will sprinkle that in.
What do you see works on that end?
I personally don't have any data on that. I don't know if a personal phone call works any better than a text message. I do know just in talking to people, again, I don't have hard numbers on this, but in talking to the majority of investors, that most people reply to text messages.
Yep. But everybody is different. So you'll see right here, at one point she has delayed 2 days, and then the system will create an automated task for her to call back the lead, and she merges in the phone number. So basically when that task pops up in her system, the phone number is right there, and she can go ahead and place that phone call, has a number right there handy, and tries to get them on the phone here. So again, the idea, everybody's going to have different methods of communication, right? Some people's more likely to pick up the phone or respond to a text message, look at an email. Every lead is going to be different with that. So again, you want to try to hit them with as many different options as possible, just because they're going to have different preferences themselves.
Yeah, and one thing we didn't mention, just because we kind of ran out of time, was there might be some existing REI Black Book users on the call. I don't know. So maybe a couple months ago at this point, we released a mobile app called Profit Dial, which is just the name of our phone system. So when people reply to your text messages, no matter where you're at, you'll get push notifications to your phone to let you know that people are replying. So just like if somebody sends you a normal text message or a Facebook message or WhatsApp or whatever, any of those messaging apps that you have, and you get a notification on your phone that says you have a new text message or a new lead or a new message. The same thing will happen with your text messages in the system. If people reply to your text messages, you'll get a notification and you can just reply directly. You probably can't see this, but you can just reply directly from your mobile device, which again cuts down on the friction of you actually replying to people, which is great.
Yep.
Do you have any questions, or Jim, do you have any questions or anything that you want to touch on that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
So it looks like Melanie wants to know if you have any offer any campaigns that are done for you.
Yeah, so like you don't have to set them up yourself. So we do have implementation packages that we offer we have basically an implementation team that will build stuff out for you. I think those plans start at like $1,500. So if you're interested in that before signing up, you can certainly reach out to Kevin and he can give you some more information about that. But we built REI Black Book with the intention of it being easy enough, it being user-friendly enough and easy enough for you to set up yourself. Now, I realize that no matter how easy it is, or no matter how user-friendly it might be, you might just be busy. You might just say, hey, I just want to make sure it's set up properly. I don't want to mess with it. I just want it to work out of the box. And so we do have some implementation plans that we offer.
Okay, and then Chuck's just saying he's not all that tech savvy. Is this hard for tech savvy people? Do you have any support available?
Yeah, so obviously, I say easy. It's all relative, right? But yeah, so we do have a full knowledge base. We have a full support team that works in the office here in St. Louis. So if you have questions, you can chat with our support team. You can go through all of our support documentation to learn how to set your website up and set your phone number up. Or if you're just like, hey guys, can you just build this for me? We do offer that as well. And it's pretty reasonably priced, compared to if you were to go hire, somebody to set your website up and to set your phone system up. If you were to go, try to find somebody online to do that, they're going to charge you $5,000 to $10,000 probably. So there's that option as well.
Awesome. Well,
yeah, I just put my email address inside the chat box as well. So if anybody has any specific questions or anything, always happy to help set up time to talk through. Can show you some more details, all that. So,
hey, one more time. So you just replied to all panelists, I think, not attendees.
My apologies.
Yeah, and then one more time, can you send over the link to as well? I think Roy was having issues with the link.
Yep, I'll add that in there as well.
The number 3 and then doors, I think.
Yes.
Correct. All one word.
Okay, so we'll chat that over too as well. So, all right, guys. Well, hey, I really appreciate it. We're gonna have to do this. We're gonna have to do this again and dive into some more of these things. I think REI Black Book's a great tool set, and absolutely, I would highly encourage you all to look into it. And regardless of what what you want to do, what's in your budget or whatnot, make sure you're following up. That's so critically important, guys. That's working smart and not hard, right?
Yep.
Because that is just paramount. If you guys are going to do the deals you want to do, if you're going to make the money you want to make, you can't skip this step in the business. It's so important. So appreciate you guys. Thanks for contributing. Appreciate it, Josh. Appreciate it, Kevin. And like as always, guys, give me a holler if you need anything. Happy to help any way I can. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks for having us, guys.
For this particular show, go to doorstodeals.com/005. Again, that's doorstodeals.com/005. Go out, live your purpose, and above all else, go after your dreams. Take care. Thanks for tuning into this show. For more episodes and resources that will unlock Doors to Deals, check out our website, doorstodeals.com.